Hey everyone, we are back for another week of exciting rehearsals. This week we are recapping the 2024 WGI Percussion Championships, which I had such a great time at. But we will also find out what made Austin say.
They moved well, they played well, everything was designed well. It wasn't insane. It wasn't like the hardest thing they've done in the world, but they did push their members and they challenged them.
And why Jose said,
I mean, from A class to open class to world class, I mean, it's the biggest one that the idiom has seen, I think, since maybe 2018, 2019. Maybe it's the biggest one so far in the idiom's short history.
All this and more, so get out on the field and we will see you back on the sidelines for this week's episode of On a Water Break.
8 off the mat and go.
Welcome to On a Water Break, the podcast where we talk everything marching arts.
Everyone, bring it in.
It's time for a water break.
Welcome to another episode of Season 2 of On a Water Break, the podcast where we talk about everything you and your friends are talking about at rehearsal on a water break. I'm Steve McCarrick. It is official, the indoor season has come to an end, and we at On a Water Break have covered it all. Color guard, percussion, and winds in the best way. Our hosts and guests all across the activity, they've seen all the performances and got to capture some great moments everywhere. So this week, we're going to get back to recap WGI 2024 Percussion and Winds. I'm excited to be back at rehearsal, so let's get this going. This week on the sidelines, we've got Jose. Have you recovered fully from Dayton yet? I got to talk to you just before you left.
I don't know about recover fully, but I mean, like the seasons, I mean, as we all know, the seasons just kind of blend into each other. So I got like a good 3 days where I disappeared and didn't answer any texts, and now it's playing the catch-up game and getting ready for summer and fall.
I know exactly what you mean. I feel like when I get home from Dayton, I kind of go into hibernation for about 48 hours. And then
yeah, they call it
me after.
They say, my clients and my friends are like, oh, Joey goes into like a black hole. Like, no one can find me. No one can text me. I don't tell people where I'm going. I just kind of disappear. And when I come back, hopefully I'm stronger, better, faster, stronger, all the Daft Punk stuff. Yes,
we're used to seeing you on milk cartons around this time of year. But Austin, doing well, a medalist in the house?
Yeah, I am actually not the only medalist in the house. Joey and Jamar also participating in the medal gang here.
Wow.
Jamar's awesome. Always awesome. They both bunch of silvers, bunch of golds. Love it. We had a great time. We got to Horizon got to release the flamboyance. It was a great time. All we saw was pink the entire time. It was great.
Awesome. Yeah, we're very well represented in this call. The very successful panelists out here at On a Water Break. So awesome. I'm excited to hear much more about how it went for you guys and wins in general in a little bit here, Austin. But Matt Carraher, back from Scholastic A Percussion Land, Pennsylvania in the Mid-Atlantic, represented well at WGI this year. I think we can both attest to this.
Yeah, I thought it was a great year for the Mid-Atlantic, for our state and PA and the surrounding areas. It was a great showing out in Dayton this year. We're very excited about it.
Nice. Yeah, we definitely, I think for the Mid-Atlantic, for United in particular, we're starting to hit some of the best strides I think the ensemble's ever hit. Really, things are starting to really come together.
Yeah, United had an awesome year. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's been really, really cool. Very fun. I'm excited to talk now that I'm not I always felt like I needed to keep things a little under wraps because you're teaching and you got your own things going. But I'm excited to really get to talk about the season now. So our first guest host tonight is a pretty accomplished person already, and they may or may not already have a medal around their neck. Maybe not currently, but we've got Jamar Morrison from Stryke Wynds. Jamar.
Hey guys, how are you?
Doing great. Thank you for coming on our show, man.
Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to get to know you a little better. How we like to do this on this show is through a 32 count life story. It gives you about 30 seconds to catch our audience up to speed. You ready to give it a try?
Okay, do I just talk about who I am?
Yeah. So I'll give you 8 and in from the Met, and then you just everything that you think would be important about who you are, what you do, just to catch our listeners up to speed on who you are.
Okay, got it.
They'll give you 8 bars, all right?
Easy.
8 and in from the Met.
Hey guys, my name is Jamar Morrison, and I am a visual designer, choreographer, and visual consultant in the marching arts. And I've been officially doing this for about a year, and I enjoy what I do. My mission is to help band members, band directors, band parents out to create shows and help create designs that create success for everybody. And that's my biggest goal in life.
Awesome.
That's all I got.
Cool. Well, we are very happy to have you on the show. Excited to hear more about the different groups you work with in a little bit here. But before we do that, we've got one other guest host with us today that we're excited to meet. Perhaps the most tired of all of us, having been a performer this year at WGI, we have Aubrie Lynn from Rhythm X. Aubrie, thank you for joining us on the show. So you'll be able to catch us up to speed the same way as Jamar just did here with a 32 count life story. You ready to give it a try? Sweet. You'll get Aiden in from the Met.
So I'm originally from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. I was homeschooled, and I didn't start marching band at all until I started marching independent my freshman year of college. And through local independent groups and then eventually drum corps, it introduced me to Rhythm X, which is where I just aged out of. And so I moved up to Dayton, Ohio to do that. And now for better or worse, I'm stuck here. So,
I know that all too well. I know very many people in your circumstances. I don't know if we met, but I marched X in 2020 and 2022. So we probably run in a lot of similar circles. But yeah, congratulations on a great year. As an alum, I was super excited to see you guys jump on semifinals night. I was like, whoa, okay, all right. They're getting it all together right at the very end there. How did it feel for you guys?
I think it was bittersweet.
Really, with the way the season panned out at the end.
We were obviously super stoked for going from prelims to semis and making that huge jump in placement. And then I think it's not incorrect of me to say that we were hoping for a little more on finals night, but it's nothing to complain about. I went into the season saying I just wanted a different color medal than last year, so we got that. Of course.
Yeah, you're in good company. I know all too well how difficult it is to beat Pulse, but they're excellent. We'll circle back here with some more about Rhythm X in a little bit. But Jamar, why don't you tell us a little bit about your group? I think you were working with Stryke Wynds, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was a very fun season. This is officially my third year teaching Winds, and I've been marching Stryke Wynds since 2016. So to be able to be part of the growth of the organization and the group itself, it's really nice, and it really felt good to go up to Dayton, and for us it was a little bit more personal in the sense of saying we've spent a lot of time, especially when I was marching, trying to, at least my goal was always to just do the best we can and see if we can win, and just going 2 times back to back and going to this one where we really enjoyed that last run, it felt really good to kind of say, we did this thing, we enjoyed our product, we enjoyed what we did. And it took work too. It took a lot of us coming together and figuring out ideas. And it was fun too, though, because the way we were designing things, if I had an idea or someone had an idea, we always thought of, okay, what's the coolest thing that we can do to elevate it? And I think for me this season as a team, this was a very cohesive season for Winds, for the members and the staff.
Nice. Yeah, that's cool. I was talking to Jose and Austin a couple weeks ago, right before Dayton, and they were kind of getting me to understand just how much Winds is a growing activity, not in the sense of more groups are coming around, but we're kind of figuring out what it even is that we're trying to do out here. What sort of performances are going to be the best, what sort of things. There's less restrictive rules. So now that you're on the design side, what do you kind of feel? Does Stryke really try to push the boundary with what's going on out there, or what do you guys? What's the creative process at Stryke Wynds?
The creative process starts with, honestly, when Josh Brennis and Robert Rivero, which is our music writer and our drill designer, when they start creating stuff, they treat it from an artistic standpoint. So the first thing they're trying to do is not going in the confines of what is Winds, like their ideas, at least from what I've seen or what I've heard from their conversations. And I've talked to Josh back and forth because we drive to Ohio together, so we talk a lot. But it's always just about like, what can we do next? So it's never really just about the competition. It's like, what have we not done, or what would be cool? What would be cool there? And so it becomes such a creative thing, and it becomes so more organic in the sense of like, let's tinker and figure things out. And every single year, we have a ballot, and there's like a process where like Josh will begin playing it. Josh will hear it. Robbie will hear it live. They'll make changes. It's always just an ever evolving thing. And it's always about development. Mm-hmm. We don't try to go too set in stone with everything. We want to see, what can we develop? How can we elevate simple moments? And that's how we typically design things. And then when it comes to choreography, same idea.
Well, that actually sounds really similar to what I'm familiar with at Rhythm X. So, Aubrie, for the show this season, was it much so like my years where the show is constantly evolving, like sometimes in really serious ways, leading in the weeks up to finals? What was your experience with like how the show comes together at X?
So I will say, I do think that the process was probably a little bit different this year because instead of Tim Fairbanks, we had Ryan Ellis. So a lot of our
really functionally different design team.
Very much so. And both geniuses in their own way. But it was really cool to get to see the difference because I felt like we made all of our like big, huge, drastic changes much earlier in the season this year, like closer to regional time. Like finals week, I don't know that we really changed anything. Like I'm sure there were minor tweaks for like the VE and some of the choreo stuff happening on the floor. But it was really nice this year to just like get to finals week and actually get to clean like what we're going to put on the floor.
Yeah. And I think that's like what X is noticing. Like in 2022, we ran into a similar situation that you did this year. I think both those seasons were like kind of similar in how they progressed in finals week, where like X is so used to trying to change the show a lot and redesign and make things as good as they can be, at least in the past, that it's tough to compete and be as clean as ensembles, especially in like a little bit fairer weather parts of the country that are going to focus on being like as clean as possible. So like it's kind of cool to hear that now X is responding to that circumstance they're in competitively, and they're trying to like get ahead of their issue and have more time to clean. That's really interesting. We'll come back to some more of this stuff in a little bit here, but why don't we hop into the news now? All right. Well, turns out WGI is not the only thing happening in the world. So, Matt, why don't you get us started with our first story for the week?
Sure. So, I know probably a lot of people have heard about last year there was a teenager named Ralph Yarl. He's an African-American male that accidentally went to the wrong house and rang the doorbell, and he was shot by an elderly white man and shot twice within a few seconds of opening the door. And, horrible situation and awful. And, luckily he survived, and it's a terrible situation that we even have to be talking about these sort of things happening in the world still. And, so Ralph is a band student, and, for me, it like really hits personally because I was a high school band director for 8 years. And, I've experienced my share of tragedies with students, but nothing comes close to this. And I just can't imagine what it's like, to experience that. But so there's a civil lawsuit that's come up now that hopefully, he'll at least get some sort of justice for, what was done to him. But really cool thing is, so he's a clarinet player, and he's a senior in high school this year. And even with the setbacks he's had with his injuries, he still made all-state band in Missouri this year on bass clarinet.
Nice.
Which, super cool. And what I read was he's still planning on going to college and studying engineering. So, it looks like awful situation, but it'll, hopefully turn out to be a very he'll be okay and still live a good life.
It's a good update because I do think I remember we covered this probably sometime last year. It's cool to hear all this stuff. Like, it's a testament to band's ability to like provide some positive reinforcement or be the positive light during a negative situation for students and things like that. Like, I know in the school district that I came from, it was not at all uncommon for kids to come from like rough backgrounds at home or just otherwise not the best like home or situations outside of school. But when they're in the program that they're in, their arts program at school, that's where they found home and community. So like, I think it's pretty heartwarming to hear that he's able to kind of lean back on that same community and be a part of like the all-state band and do the things that he loves. It's a great update. Thank you, Matt. Austin, what do you got for us?
Speaking of positive band stories, I got a really good one. I'm a big sports guy outside of all my band ventures and everything. And even though hockey is not one of my main sports, the University of Denver went on to go and win the Frozen Four. So they won the NCAA Hockey National Championship. There's their 10-time winning, and it's a smaller school. So they don't have a band. They don't have a music program there. So the Frozen Four was held in Minnesota, and so University of Denver gave, the Edina High School. They gave them a call and they said, "Hey, we need a band to come play for us at the Frozen Four." And so they graciously agreed. They said, "Hey, this is what we're doing. Here's like our fight song. Here's how we do it. Can you come play for us?" They gave them like 2 weeks notice. They said, "Absolutely, we did it." They got 24 kids together, and the kids had the time of their lives and threw together a pet band for the Frozen Four and helped the University of Denver win the national championship in hockey.
For us. Mm-hmm. Whoa, that's actually awesome. Sometimes you see those sorts of like high schools get performance gigs, like where it's like, how'd you even line up that gig? That's so cool. I'm so jealous that like some students get those awesome opportunities. It's nice to hear that for them. Awesome. Yeah. Hopefully maybe someday the high school I teach can get in with the Philadelphia Flyers. Sounds like a bit of a long shot, but
fun. That'd be a fun gig. Just getting in a hockey arena, even a basketball arena, just having some fun, playing some drums, playing some notes, all that good stuff. Couldn't go wrong there.
I've always thought that like being the bass 5 of a pep band would be like the most fun thing in the world. Like just on stands, the biggest, heaviest drum, but on a stand, and let me just wail away on it while people play hockey. Sounds fun. All right. I'll take the next story for this one here. We're sticking a bit towards like the collegiate athletics and other marching facilities world. So the Ohio University, not to be confused with the dreaded Ohio State University, Ohio University unveiled its plans for a new marching band complex and practice facility on Saturday. So this new Marching 110 band complex featuring Hurley Field will be along South Schaefer Street. It's going to be a large turf installation to support rehearsal for marching band in all weather conditions. A big director's tower. Like looking at it, it's really everything that you would want as your marching band. It's kind of crazy to think like setting up a turf field specifically for the purpose of like having the best marching band rehearsals you could have. Like plenty of bands get facilities that have turf fields now. They're kind of starting to become more popular in high schools, but I don't know that I've ever seen a turf field specifically for the marching band. So shout out to Ohio University. That's definitely no small investment. Looks like it was $1 million gift given by an alumni member of the marching band, Sean Hurley, and Tracy Hurley as well, to support the project's success. So their quote to wrap up the article, they say, "Our time as members of the Marching 110 was such a gift. Not only did we experience unforgettable rehearsals, performances, and travel across the country, but we got to do it alongside of a group of individuals who became lifelong friends and family," which is a very common story, I feel like, throughout all of bands. So awesome. Shout out to Ohio University. Lovely sort of thing that they can have there for their students. Jose, what do you got for us this week?
I've got some sad news. The activity just lost 2 Very strong souls, very, very huge supporters in the activity and just in like music education altogether. Mary Lynn DeRoe, who has ties with Fred J. Miller, and Chad Dempsey, both passed away this past week, and it's really sad to see. The one thing that I think is really cool is seeing the sunflowers all over my Facebook for Chad, and knowing some of his mentees and what they've done for the activity already, and what they plan to continue on. And it started with Chad. I think is really, really cool. And as bitter as it is, it's great to know that he's not suffering anymore, and that he's off to be a sunflower up in heaven. And it's sad, but I'm happy he's he's in a good place now.
That is tragic. Rest in peace for both of them, but certainly sad to see them go, but happy for the time that we did have to have with them. All right. Well, Austin, what do you have for us this week? You have one more, right?
I do have one more. Some good news actually involving the cadets. So a bunch of memorabilia from the cadets, such as like trophies, championship banners, shadow boxes, uniform jackets, any sort of memorabilia. The Marching Pageantry Arts Museum recently received like a really big sum of all that memorabilia so that we have the ability to remember the cadets. And it just kind of helps spark the conversation that the cadets legacy will hold on in the world of drum corps. There are a bunch of photos of this. If you go and check out Bill Ives' Facebook page and the Marching Pageantry Art Museum Facebook page, there are a bunch of photos on there. And speaking of the cadets and everything, Jamar was on staff there. So this is kind of my formal invitation to say, hey, let's go. And I think we're trying to put together a cadets recording. So we want to bring Jamar on, and there's a couple other people from On a Water Break that are going to try to organize it all together. Chris Rutt will be involved in it as well. So Jamar, we'd love to have you on that special episode whenever we do have that.
I'd love to.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds great. I know it's something we're looking to get in the books soon here before we get further into the DCI season, looking to really have some good talks about the cadets and the cadets legacy. So yeah, everybody go check out the Marching Pageantry Arts Museum, Bill Ives' Facebook page and the Marching Pageantry Arts Museum Facebook page for all this sort of cadets memorabilia that's getting set up there. All right. So everybody get back out there on the field. We are going to get some chunks in here of the new drum corps music we are learning for this upcoming summer. But I will be back with you all in a little bit.
Hey, this is Christine Ream.
And Chris Green.
Guard Closet was founded as a consignment business in 2000. Since then, it has grown to include winter guard, band, percussion, and other genres.
We can help you with custom flag and costuming designs.
Our consignment inventory has plenty of great looks for your color guard, drumline, and marching band.
Pay it forward. When you purchase consignment, you help other programs. Last year, we sold over 400 sets of consignments and returned over $125,000 in payments to our consigners for their sales.
Additionally, Guard Closet offers custom and pre-designed costumes, flags, floors, and formal wear, full or partial show writing, educational programming, and other services.
Max out your rehearsal time and set up a microsite for easy student ordering for shoes, gloves, and other equipment.
The Guard Closet team is here to help you get everything you want and need for your season. Check us out at guardcloset.com and follow us on social media.
All right, everyone, time to set the equipment down because we're going to hear a little bit more about all these fun times we all had at WGI this year. I had a very fun time teaching, also a really scary time if I'm going to kick it off. One of my students actually, during his semis performance, dislocated his knee and I think it was called a patellar subplexion or something like that was the name of it. And then he was limping by the end of the night, could barely walk Sunday morning, but he was at age out and really wanted to perform. And it was really his choice at this point, how he wanted to handle it. So he ended up going to a hospital, got like a steroid shot and like was feeling good, wanted to do it, was in there and performed, nailed it Saturday night rather. So I would describe my overall WGI experience as stressful and fun, but but fun predominantly. But I'm sure all of us had the whole gambit. What do you guys think? What were some of the big things that you felt this year, or big moments that you saw in the arena?
I'll jump in. I thought I had a little bit of a unique opportunity this year because my group ended up getting reclassified like the last week of the regular season to open, and then we it was just great and it was awesome, but we didn't make it out of the first round. We missed it by like one. So that was disappointing, but we also had like just the whole weekend on Friday and Saturday to watch, which was super cool. And you know, a neat opportunity to just get to soak it all in and see everything. And I'll jump in on like MCM. I thought their show, the moment with the moment where they all stop and it's silent, and then the guy in the back side two corners starts screaming, and then the whole thing builds and builds and builds, and it was just such. I think that was like the iconic moment of this year in WGI percussion.
Yeah,
you know, like finals night when the audience is joining in too. Like it was super cool.
Yeah, like as a ex-alumni, I am traditionally a bit of a biased hater towards MCM, but this year I can't even do it. I can't even hold it up. I actually really liked that MCM show so much. Way more than I've liked the MCM show in a while, I think. And like that whole moment, I knew the second that I saw them do it for the first time, I was like, oh, this is going to be so electric in the UD arena, like especially semis and finals when the crowd is actually full and everyone's going to scream with them. I wish I wasn't teaching so I could have actually seen it at finals, but I got to see it at semis and it was really cool. What about maybe, is there anything from the Winds weekend that Austin, Jamar, or Jose, you guys thought was pretty interesting?
I'd say the biggest thing for me was the crowd. I mean, from A class to open class to world class, I mean, it's the biggest one that the Idiom has seen, I think, since maybe 2018, 2019. Maybe it's the biggest one so far in the Idiom's short history. But it was so cool when walking in with Eva on Sunday, seeing how big the crowd was, and that show is built for people to be in front of you, and the kids like playing loud and running around, and so it was great that their last performance was the best one, and that it was the biggest crowd of the weekend, and oh my gosh, were they hyped for it.
Yeah, that's so cool. I'm like so excited. You guys like totally changed my perspective on what Winds is, just in talking to you about like how it's growing and sort of how it's a bit of a different creative thing. Like, so I'm super excited to hear that you guys had a good turnout and that it was really like pushing in the right direction for the Idiom. So that's super cool. Matt, I think you were mentioning to us earlier, there was something with Scholastic schools out in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, just another cool, iconic moment. I felt like Unionville High School from out here in PA, they had a really interesting part of their show this year where they had like live painters going during the show, and then at finals they just started throwing paint everywhere at the end of the show. Like everybody, players, floor, equipment, everything's covered in paint. And
wait, did they only do it at finals?
I think they only did to that extreme at finals, and they ended up getting like almost a 10-point penalty for it and dropped 10 places. But I also saw like their director posted on Facebook his like season wrap up. He was like, it was totally worth it. I'm so
that's
glad
exactly
we did
what
that.
I was gonna say.
I was like, yeah, man, that's awesome. So yeah.
Look, if you didn't know you were about to medal, then who cares? Make it to finals and do something crazy. That's like the joke we all make. They can't stop you at finals. Wow. Aubrie, is there anything maybe from like Rhythm X's week or just something on the performer end? Like, how'd you feel going through the week?
So I think one of the most memorable things like at the arena for me was probably the semifinals lot. The way that they oriented the lot this year kind of had a lot of the like higher up world-class groups all like right on top of each other in one single corner of the lot for semifinals. And so we were right in front, or right behind RCC, and at that point we were in the 4th place slot and they were in the 2nd place slot, so we were gearing up to have our full pit run, and they started snare subs like right next to us, which, I mean, obviously we weren't wanting them to have snare subs right there, but they were definitely getting blasted by our speakers. So I think that I think they probably got the shorter end of the stick there.
I was about to say, I've been around that front ensemble. You guys are a little louder than a couple snare drums for sure. It's like a rock concert sometimes.
Definitely.
That's cool though. So as you guys were out there, I think X was also kind of near where the groups would like queue up to tunnel into the arena as well, right? Weren't you up in that corner of the lot?
Yeah, definitely. Especially for prelims, we were right in front of it, and so everyone had to pass in front of our lot to go to the tunnel, which was fun.
Yeah, I kind of like that. I always wonder if people are listening. I have a little bit of like a competitive, like, I want to be good specifically because they're right there, and I know that they can hear this.
Yeah, I know when I was in open class finals in 2022, that's where I2 was set up for finals, and they won gold that year in open class finals, and I remember walking by them and being like, dang it.
Yeah, no, you want to close your own ears a little bit, but
exactly.
All right, well, why don't we dive into a few of our standout performances here? Don't gotta just pick your one favorite group. Maybe you could give us your top 3 favorites. Austin, do you want to kick us off here with some of your favorites from the year?
Yeah, absolutely. Matt already kind of beat me to the punch on the MCM hype. I got to watch the back end of World Class Finals. Mm-hmm. We sprinted away from Truist Arena after prelims, and our kind of staff tradition at Horizon is to get in we take Saturday night off. We don't rehearse. We don't do anything. The staff will all get in a hotel room. We'll pull up Flow on a laptop and we'll plug it into the TV and just sit there and just watch Independent World Finals on Saturday night. It's just something that we've always done. And MCM really, I think that was my favorite. That was probably my favorite percussion show of the year in World Class, at least. I didn't get a chance to see like A class or open class because Steven, we were kind of in the same boat, just running around teaching and everything.
Yep.
But it's more, I think it's more fun that way. That's just me. But
yeah, I was the same way like you. I was a bit like a chicken with my head cut off, just running around to see as much band as I could when I was not teaching. It'd be like, all right, great show, guys. Bye. I need to go do stuff.
I wish I had the ability. I really wish I had the ability to do that, but dealing with 54 kids is not the easiest thing in the world.
Yeah.
And then herding cattle to get on a flight, also not fun. That's a wormhole I'll go down a little bit later.
Yeah, but you've got a little more responsibility than me. I've got 5, apparently young adults. Sometimes they act a little like children still, but
good point. A couple other shows that I really liked, at least from the Winds side. Joey, Eva Winds. I caught Joey in the lot right after finals before we had to dart to the airport. I was like, Joey, man, that Eva Winds show, it was so simple. It was so open class. It was just perfect. Like they did everything right for their class. And I was like, this is it. They moved well, they played well, everything was designed well. It wasn't insane. It wasn't like the hardest thing they've done in the world, but they did push their members and they challenged them. And I think it was just designed perfectly for the membership. And I sat like 5 rows up on side 2. Yeah, it was side 2. And I just watched, and for over half the show, I just watched the performers' faces. And they just looked like they were having so much fun out there. And that was like, I had one of those moments where I was just sitting there. I was like, this is why we do this activity. These performers are just having the time of their lives. They're throwing down and people are clapping for them. And that was that. And I'm really excited to see where Eva goes moving forward too.
That was so nice of you to say. You're so sweet.
Love you, Joey.
I love you.
Well, maybe that could actually bring us over. Joey, what were some of your favorite programs from the year?
So I got to watch World Class, Scholastic and Independent Winds. That's all I got to watch. Everything else was running to rehearsals, or we did a bowling / arcade night with Eva on Saturday night. So getting, all 33 members to the arcade was crazy. But I would say that absolutely loved Horizon and Stryke. And it's not because y'all are on the podcast. It's truly because what you guys did was, hey, the cool thing about Winds is that there's so much that we can do. And so like the shows, you put them right next to each other, just like you said, Austin, it's like comparing apples and oranges sometimes. And, both of y'all belonged on the podium, I believe. And they're so beautiful. But the big thing for me was watching Avon and watching those kids' faces and watching them throw those instruments up in the air. They added this morning, Sunday morning. It's so cool to see, that level of excellence from that young of a membership, so that for me was pretty incredible. I didn't realize how big the crowd was until Avon came on and I heard the cheer and I was like, that's a lot of sound. I looked to my left, I see the entire stands kind of filled from bottom to top. And I was like, that's when I realized, we're here. We're finally, at maybe not the same level as guard and percussion, but I mean, we're getting there, and it was really, really neat. Those are my top 3 right now.
That's saying no. I think it's really cool to hear just how much it's been growing, and to think that like over the next 5 to 10 years, it really can and probably should be, as large and successful of an activity as percussion and color guard.
Yeah.
It's cool to hear from you guys that have been in the mix and been doing it year over year, 4 years now. You get to really, you're the people that would know just how big that crowd has been every year. So it's cool to hear that, man.
Yeah.
Let's bring it back towards percussion a little bit. Matt, what were some of your favorites?
I mean, I loved Mystique. That was my favorite show this year, and it was really cool. I love Broken City. They're always, just the way they write is so amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, like, on the Scholastic side, I definitely got to shout out Center Grove. I thought they had a really great show, and at finals they had an electronics issue, and they were sitting there for like 3-4 minutes just waiting, and they still just like performed their butts off, and like it was just super cool to see, like, because that could easily like completely derail your performance, but they just took it and threw down, and so that was really cool. I love them, and then I really love Clearbrook High School. I think they just tell a story so well. They have a lot of the same designers as Mystique, so that definitely is a great thing for them. And I thought they both just had really awesome performances at finals this year.
Yeah. Sorry, I just got distracted a little bit because you reminded me of this one group that I should have brought up earlier during the like crazy shocking performances thing. I saw this one group that came out on prelims, and they had a very long electronics issue, just like you were describing from Center Grove, where they sat out there for over like 2 songs, which, like, how they have songs playing the whole time while you're sitting in the arena. Did you guys see those balloons that just popped up on my screen? That was so weird. But they sat there for like 2 whole songs, and the whole ensemble was wearing morph suits, like, so you couldn't really see their faces, but you knew that this was a very uncomfortable situation for them. And they were also a group that's like kind of, new to being in world class. So it's not necessarily certain, especially as you're watching this penalty come along, that this group is going to be able to make it out of the hole that's like unfolding in front of you. So then it's super weird as you're watching this performance, and the whole audience knows, like, this could come around and this could work out, but this very most likely is going to be the last time this group performs this show right now, and we all know it. And then it just so happened to be like one of the craziest shows I have ever seen. Like one of the most wild things. It sounds insane, but you would have like whatever instrument you play, someone else would wear on their back in front of you. And then you would wear the person behind you's instrument on your back. So then you would be like in this caterpillar snaking around the floor where you're like playing the bass. You're like playing snare on someone else's back while you're like wearing a set of quads. The most insane thing that I saw in the world was that they made these poor cymbal players wear quads while playing cymbals. So they still had to hold their own cymbals and hold someone else's quads while a quad drummer holding nothing stood behind them and just
You're
played.
definitely going to need a chiropractor after that.
You need a chiropractor. Oh my gosh. It was like such a trip to watch that show. I'm sorry. I feel like I just totally derailed the performance, but the call. But from the moment that you talked about that penalty, I was just like, you brought me back directly to WGI prelims. And I was like, wait, this insane show happened. And I feel like I need to make sure we talk about it on the call, because it was a moment for sure. All right. Thank you all for bearing with me on that one. Jamar, what were some of your favorite performances from the year?
Actually, before I even get there, it's actually funny that you say that about like the electronics issue. I'll never forget in 2019 for Stryke Wynds, we had an electronic issue and our speakers weren't working. So I remember we were setting up for prelims, we were ready to go, we were ready to like do the thing, and then we started a kneeling set. I remember specifically, and then the track didn't start, and then I was like, wait, this isn't funny anymore. Like I thought I was getting punked. So we were just waiting there, and we ended up getting a 14-point penalty.
Oh,
but it's crazy though. It's crazy though, because we kind of all looked at each other as a team, and I was the horn sergeant at the time. We kind of I looked at everybody, and I was like, guys, we're gonna have to do it. We're gonna have to do what we can. And they all looked at me, and I'm like, I'm just as angry as you are. And we were like, agreed. And then we got down, and I think I don't know what was in there for that run that day, but like we have this 49-person rotation that we love to do. We did it again this year. But that moment for us was like, all right, cool. We're here. We're ready to go. And like, we were nailing everything that day. And I was just like, so where was this the whole season? But whatever. But that to me was such a great moment. But my favorite shows from this year, is it just Winds and drums, or can it be Guard as well?
I mean, give a special shout out to Guard, but do you have another Winds moment or percussion moment too? You can talk about whatever you want.
Many. Oh my God, so many. So actually, I did watch Eva today on accident because I found the thumbnail and I was like, oh, I haven't seen them yet. So I watched Eva. I love how everything was paced choreographically. And I did like that double lens that you put in. And I noticed it because I remember BD did the same thing in 23. And I remember that moment in the beginning. Yep, I love that thing. And I do remember the moment where the Woodwinds are running around, but they're facing each other. That to me was insane. Oh my gosh, I was getting so ecstatic. And then you had like the moment where Diamonds from Sierra Leone by Kanye West. And I remember you put that in there and I was like, oh, that was so tasty. I always wanted to make that a sample. The next show that I really, really liked, and even though it's controversial, Fantasia. I think Fantasia's show from this past year was enjoyable to watch. And I think because of the subject matter of what it was, I know it's heavy, but I think the way that they did it and the way they paid homage to what happened was so tasteful and so beautiful, in the sense that like when you heard Not While I'm Around come on, there was like that comfort that anyone would want to feel in the situation like that. And I think the way that they did that, and the way that they went from like the black and looking like Dementors or like ghouls and like lost souls into something beautiful, was such a beautiful moment for me. Like I found it cathartic, and the fact that, you know, that group took the effort to say a statement like that, even though it probably got the reviews that it did, I think they got such a special place in my heart, in my book, for even, you know, embarking on something like that. That's so hard to do. That's such a neat, not even niche thing. It's an uncomfortable conversation, and you know, society isn't really, you know, built for uncomfortable all the time. And I think that was great that I saw Fantasia. That was one of my favorites. And then percussion, Broken City. For Broken City, I love their show. I love their formulas. I've always loved Broken City since I think 2016 was the year where they wore the red and they had the props that moved over, and then they were like the gray.
Right.
Yeah. I love
like
that
the
show.
trilogy time when they had the 3 different shows. Yeah.
Yes, and then that one, and there was Spine, and then like I've just always watched them ever since. So I've been such a huge nerd. But when I saw this one, and then like the way that they ripped that book, and that there was a book there, and then the way the props on the side one were basically like the same idea of a book, but they were like wiry, was so cool to me, of how you can create, you know, like the skeleton of a book and turn it into so many different ideas and looks. So Broken City has always been like one of my favorite percussion groups, just because like they create fresh ideas visually, and like I love subtlety, and then their subtlety to me is so beautiful, and it matches the music, and it matches visually, and it's coordinated so well. So those were 3 of my favorites. I loved Horizon because Austin, the way you played with the sleeves and the way that it was black and it'd move around and do different ideas with it. That was really cool. And then I love the fact that it ended on Birdland. I think pop tunes are seldom seen in an activity where we take things sometimes too seriously, because I think some pop tunes could really work. Sometimes those power ballads just really work and when it's a pop tune. But I think that choice to do Birdland was so cool, at least in my eyes. And yeah, those were like my highlights from this season, show-wise.
Yeah, man. I love just like your encyclopedic knowledge of the shows you've watched. It's actually really impressive. Like, you were so ready to go. It was so cool.
Sorry.
I want to talk to you about Broken City a little bit too, because like I've been a big fan from afar, especially as a bass drummer. Mike Jackson is a bass drummer as well, and he writes some of like the most forward-thinking bass book, even as someone that marched RXB and also thinks that's in its own way the most forward. But set that aside, the bass drumming and all, from their whole show perspective, I felt like this year's program was kind of cool in that like it was kind of more grounded in an idea. Like sometimes I think criticism you could levy on Broken City is that it's a little bit tough to understand the show or what's going on, and you need to watch the show multiple times to understand the read. Whereas this year, I felt like they actually took a step in a direction that I appreciate, that the show still had similar levels of depth to it and like artistic nature, but it was actually, to me, more grounded and readable on your first watch. What do you think, since you're a Broken City fan?
I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with that. And even though like I am the type of person that will study a show to like the ends of me and notice every single moment, I think that the approach that Broken City took, as any artist would take, it was different, it was fresh, and you know there is a risk in that sometimes that it's outside of your wheelhouse. But I think what they did was, I don't think they overcorrected themselves. I think I don't know what they set out to do, but it really felt like, okay, I get what they're going for, and I get like, here's what I'm going to say. I understood what they're going for, and they still had the ability to give me nuance and subtlety. And I think that's beautiful to me. That is super beautiful to me.
Yeah, that's you articulated it well there, that like you got that graspable first read level of depth, but they still had that greater multiple reads level of depth to the show, which is that's super mature show design right there.
Yes, agreed.
Well, Aubrie, you look like you've been chomping at the bit to talk about X, Broken City, or really anyone you want to. So what were some of your favorite shows? And surely let's talk about Rhythm X at this point too.
Yeah, for sure. So I am the type of person who doesn't really like to watch band while I'm doing band, especially as a performer, because like from a competitive aspect, like it's just so easy to like get in your own head and like start to doubt the process.
Yeah.
But also I just kind of get tired of doing band, and I don't really want to watch it while I'm also having to do it and think about it 24/7. So
okay, as you can tell, the rest of us have done enough band watching for the all of us. Well, you can tell us about the inside scoop a little on X or whatever you really want to talk on.
Yeah, for sure. So out of the shows that I did see, because I did see a few, I think my favorite was actually Monarch.
Monarch show was nice.
Yeah, cool. I'm typically a big Monarch fan. I think in years past, their design has not super been my favorite. And I think like last year and this year, they're kind of starting to move in a direction that like I think is establishing their identity as an ensemble, which
Monarch
I super
stuff was
appreciate.
very tasteful. Like I thought that the way they used lights and the like artistic nature of their show was just super like reserved and tasteful in like a mature way, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And that front ensemble is always just absolutely wonderful. And they always have one of my favorite books of the whole year, because Andy Filipiak is the one who writes the Monarch front ensemble book, and he is just a master at like tasteful, like it just sounds like percussion ensemble writing in the marching arts, and I always really appreciate that. But,
yeah, Monarch's great. They also tend to have a pretty good bass line too. I appreciate them for that one as well. But what other ones were you a fan of?
Let's see. I I also quite enjoyed RCC.
Mm-hmm.
I think that no one is a bigger fan of RCC in the East Coast than Rhythm X at this point. Like, I think we have found some common ground over the past couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And I really loved their ball feature where they were, throwing the whole ensemble on the floor had those red bouncy balls and we're throwing them. And I remember we were watching it. We were about to go down into the tunnel for semis. And like, as I'm like getting ready to go down the ramp, I'm watching on the TV their feature, and I'm just like so anxious for them because I was so worried that someone was going to drop something.
I don't know about at finals. I know for sure at semis I caught a few balls go astray, but they have so many going out there. Like, it would actually be a little tough, I think, to even see it all as the judge. Like, that's kind of like what they were doing a little bit, was like a maximalist thing with some of their moments. Like, there's just so much going on out there. I thought that RCC show was super cool too. Their show was like trippy in a subtle way, where like it seems kind of just like a fun, childish maybe show on the surface if you're looking at it. But then if you read into it, you realize like this whole idea of the carousel and like going around the circle of life and stuff is actually kind of a bit of a trippy idea. So yeah, I totally agree with you, man. I've loved RCC. I never put the 2 and 2 together that it's because we're like trauma bonded in our efforts to get a gold medal. But and then I'm sure you probably also, X's show is great. It's something that if I'll talk on X real quick before you do, appreciate it for right now is like really doing the work to try to compete with Pulse at like a quality level, where like I think that X drums better and differently than everyone that's not Pulse, pretty much, in my opinion. Now it's just my opinion, but like I think the people over there know that like the thing that's making it hard to beat Pulse is that they're so clean. So like I can see that X is putting in the effort to become that clean. And like that's my read from watching you guys. I was just so impressed by the quality with which everything was executed. But like what were your thoughts on the program and everything?
Yeah, so I'll admit, at first whenever they told us that we were doing a show about birds, I was admittedly pretty disappointed. That wasn't really the age out, rage out that I was kind of anticipating, because everyone jokes about how X has a pattern of like, there's the artsy fartsy year, then there's the in your face crowd pleaser year. And I was like, well, 22 was in your face crowd pleaser, 23 was artsy fartsy, so 24 has got to be big in your face crowd pleaser. And then they said we were doing a show about birds. And so I was super doubtful at first. I didn't really see the vision. But then like as the season progressed and we started to really like dive deeper into the design process, and really like make the show our own, I began to really appreciate it for what it was intended to be, and like the story it portrayed. And also I think that this show was a really good step in the right direction of like trying to beat Pulse at their own game while also maintaining like Rhythm X's sense of identity.
Yeah.
And
it's interesting that you finish first. Go ahead.
Okay. That's just something that I think Rhythm X has struggled with a little bit in like more recent past years, of just like swerving too far in either direction and like trying to find like that center line of like cleanliness, but also Rhythm X-ness.
Yeah, that's definitely it. I never like thought about it exactly like that, but you're so right that like to try to beat that stranglehold that essentially, if we call a spade, Pulse has on the activity due to how good they are at being so clean and high quality. Like it's hard to go beat that and maintain your own identity, because a big thing that makes X historically has been their willingness to change their stuff constantly to try to get the most exciting show they can, by like just never being content with a moment all through the year, just always being willing to change it to something better if they can. They can't do that if they want to work something for months, thus that it's competitively clean with Pulse. So like it's it's cool to hear that that's something that's so deliberately thought out. And like you as the member can tell as the show is being designed that they're trying to like do this titration between like maintaining their own identity and like doing the things that they need to do within like the meta of competing at that end of the activity to actually have a chance. So that's awesome. As an ex-alum, I'm super happy to hear that update about like sort of where they're going with things. Cool. I obviously really liked X. I think outside of that, my favorites, I'm going to give it probably to my MCM and United. I'll talk on United as my favorite. We've talked about MCM enough throughout this, but the MCM show really just like pushed a risk in a way that I didn't see. Like, I totally don't see MCM take that often, and I don't think really anyone else like took either this year in some ways. Like, they definitely did stuff that was not just trying to play the most difficult thing the cleanest. Like, they took other avenues with their show to try to achieve success, which like at that end of the activity, you're trying to win. You're trying to compete at the highest level you possibly could. Like, to take a risk like that is actually huge. You know, that might not pay off at all. And from some perspectives, like, they came in 5th. That's not really the goal that MCM has, you know. In that regard, it might not have paid off, but in a different regard, you've got like most of the folks on the call saying that like, yep, that MCM show was an absolute banger and probably my favorite moment of the year. So like, I am in love that MCM was willing to take that sort of a risk and do a show that they knew was going to like absolutely rock with the fans, but may or may not hit with the judges. And they were content with that. That's cool. And then the United show, man, I don't want to drag on it too long. I'm probably the only person out here that cares that much about United. But it was awesome to see it come together. I've been a part of that organization since 2017. I was not there for like a year or two while I was over at X, but I obviously still cared what was going on around there. And like what I see happening at United is the Ensemble finally like learning through its 20th year of consecutive making finals or something like that. It's like insane. And they finally have hashed through so many of these issues. Like, so many of the things we're getting compliments for, like our show, has been because United got dragged for not fixing that issue in a year past. Like, and like there's so many things as I watch the design staff put it together where I've seen them put together so many shows. I actually feel like I see how they've matured to the point where they were able to put together like a program that is right there with Infinity, you know, like knocking on the door to compete at the highest level, you know, still building. We'd all the folks at United would agree, you know, clearly it's not quite, you know, MCMX, Pulse, RCC, or those groups, but we're really starting to get there. And to be able to be on the other side of that as an instructor for the first time was incredibly rewarding. So it was cool. You guys were all talking about seeing the performers' faces and everything. Like, I've never been able to sit in the front row of WGI, like where the staff sits, and like watch my students have the experience that I had for so many years. So that was absolutely rewarding, and I look forward to doing that again next year. So for now, I'm going to go get back to the books on figuring out what United's show will be next year. But we will be back with you all in just a moment.
It's Jeremy, and here are your announcements coming from the box. Don't miss all of our bonus content, including On a Water Break in Rhinestones with your host Lexi Duda, exploring the world of the Twirlers. Don't miss Parades and Drum Majors at Step Off with your host Jack Goudreau, and get lost in translation with your host Cynthia Bernard, exploring all the words that confuse all of us in the marching arts all across the world. And go Behind the Lens with marching arts photographers all across the country with your host, Chris Marr. Plenty more bonus content from On a Water Break, so listen anywhere you get your podcasts. If you want to be on a Water Break as a guest, or you know somebody that would make a great guest for On a Water Break, Email us at onawaterbreakpodcast@gmail.com or find us on social media. Okay, field staff, take it away.
Let's reset.
All right. Well, WGI was an amazing time and some incredible things came out of this season. I'm sure many of our listeners know what it's like to go through a whole season and think about everything that happened along the way. And since WGI is most recent on our minds right now, why don't we think about some things that could have been a little bit different in our segment that we call What Are We Doing?
What are we doing?
What are we doing?
All right. Let's get started here. Anybody got some stuff they want to kick us off with here? Anybody got a decent take?
Yeah, I'll jump in first. What are we doing not giving our performers ample rest time the week of finals? That's one thing that is at least in the mission of Horizon. When we come up to finals and everything, we're always making sure that we're giving our performers just as much rest time as we are rehearsal time, so that they're as fresh as they can possibly be. It's like, I know we're trying to squeeze every last ounce out of them from an educational standpoint and from a performance standpoint, but in my opinion, give the kids some time off.
Yeah, I think
the rest is just as important. It's what the Blue Devils do. They give their kids the time off. I'm just saying. I'll put it out there. And they perform the best. That's what they do.
I think you do got to start to look at it at the end of the season and ask what's going to accomplish the best rep now? We've had all the time to do the instruction. I think there's a lot of merit to still teaching all the way to the end, but there's also a lot of merit as an educator to shifting more towards being a coach as you get towards the end of the year, where my role becomes less and less to give you new information and more to just facilitate the best rep occurring,
Oh, absolutely. We were out there and Horizon, we actually gained 9 points from the Sunday to the Sunday. And it was coaching to the end, but we made sure that we got every last ounce out of them. We sat them down. We said, "Hey, here's the deal. This is what's going on. You can either sit down. You can either just coast the rest of the weekend and be happy with whatever happens, or you can put your head down and fight for it for the next 3 days, because the top 4 in Independent World Wins is an absolute bloodbath, and you can make something happen." And they all agreed, and so they worked their butts off, and they absolutely got rewarded for it in the very end. But one thing that we made sure that we did was give them ample rest time as well, and that, I think that's kind of what that actually probably had a big factor in how in their result, in my opinion. But because if we would have beat them, they would have been absolutely dead, and God knows how they would have performed.
Yeah, you really do got to pay attention to it. I think especially in something where you're going to be about performances and facial expression, communicating to an audience, if everyone's tired and drained, it might seem a little dead out there. You probably, I think everyone's best served by making sure we get some good rest. So why don't we move on this one? Matt, you were about to jump in when we just got started there. What's your What Are We Doing?
My What Are We Doing is what are we doing being so reliant on electronics in our shows? And it always comes down to you live and die by the electronics, and it's not even just the sound systems anymore. It's the lighting and all the wireless and all this stuff. And I get it, because it's the progression of the pageantry arts, right? And you add more and more things, but when you have to spend a considerable percentage of your rehearsal time just making sure you can set everything up in 120 seconds. What are we doing?
Well, it's interesting. That does become a big part of the finals week proceedings, is finding your logistics, making sure that everything is nailed out, planned out. We were going for a bit of a prop maximalism thing at United this year, which means you've got a lot of logistics that you need to know exactly who's doing what at what time and getting where. It's funny, like, I think we were just talking about the success of like X and stuff like that. I think prop logistics very well may have like been the thing that kept me from having like a gold medal in my year. Like at prelims, we came in second in subtotal, but third due to a penalty. So then we were always fighting to get like from third to second. We were like competing in the second and third range instead of competing in the first and second range. And that was ultimately due to a prop penalty, since we couldn't like really truly know until we got out there just how much space we had, and we weren't able to get out there penalty lists on prelims. We needed to make corrections to our routine from prelims to semis. It's exactly like you say, that, you know, you want to get your show better and make it more exciting by having all these different elements to it, but each of these elements are a risk. And like, I think we for sure saw that at like many different venues this year. Certainly semifinals for percussion had a good bit of issues with electronics. What would you do? Would you, if as a director, would you be trying to design a show that's going to succeed without it? Or are you trying to, you know, take the beast at face value and figure out how to make it all work?
I don't think you can design a show without it anymore, just because that's the nature of the activity. But it would have to be like a large movement from a lot of people to move away from that. But I just think like the further we get, the more it's going to be integrated, and you know, it's not going away, but it's, you know, it's the one thing that is completely out of the kids' control and can just make or break you.
Yeah, it is. And it sucks too, because the kids always like feel so bad about it. I know I've seen like electronics kids, like people that are having to deal with that equipment more closely for their own logistics, get like real wrecked when there's an issue there, especially at finals. You come up and you're like blaming yourself. It's a hard situation.
Yeah.
Well, if there's any lesson, it's that you got to do those prop logistics and as much planning as you can finals week, because it's going to throw you all sorts of curveballs when you get out there, and you're going to wish you took as much preparation as you could. Joey, what do you have for us?
Mine's kind of like a weird, like kind of positive one. I'd say what are we doing being so supportive of each other? And how can we get our drum and guard people to kind of get on that same boat? I mean, like, it was so cool to see Susie Harloff and Beth Fabrizio walking around the lot on Sunday and giving hugs to people. And, you know, Eva had a GoFundMe going out for gas and stuff. We just had some logistical things happen and just needed some money for gas, and boop, there it shows up. Avon Indoor has donated $25, and it's like, you guys have tons of things that you need to pay for, and your budgets are minimal as well. Like, everybody's just scrounging pennies to make this happen. Like, for another organization to donate is pretty incredible. And you know, what are we doing, and how can we share what we're doing as an activity or as an idiom to the rest of the activity? Because I like being even like in the advisory board meetings, it is so much chiller. There's donuts, there's, you know, coffee. We're having good times, and then you walk into the guard and the drums one, and it feels like people are out for blood. Like, are we taking artistry out of the concert percussion space? You know, are we going to allow 50-year-olds in A class guard? What's going to happen? Like, here's another proposal. And then you walk into the Winds one again. It's like, I'll have another donut. This is nice. I just like the chill vibes, and I love the chill vibes that the Winds idiom has continued to grow and thrive in.
I really like the like insider perspective that you guys offer on Winds versus percussion to us, because you're right. Percussion is so like, and just like stressed the whole time, and I never knew because I didn't know anything else. And by comparison, talking to you guys, it's like all about art. We're chill. We're having a good time. Percussion is like, we got beef. We've got like, people are upset with one another.
How do I get on the Winds advisory board? I kind of want some donuts right now. That sounds fun.
Buddy, you're in it. You can come. Everybody's allowed to come.
I need to show up. Now I need to show up.
Yeah, get a donut, dude.
Yeah. Jamar, you're coming too, right?
What, to Vegas?
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
When is it? I totally forget everything.
June 7th through the 9th. Last year we said my significant other of 10 years. We haven't been married yet. We're not going to get to that in the podcast, but we pretended like it was her bachelorette party and walked around the casino, and people were like, do you want our free drink vouchers? Do you want a drink? Do you want to come over here and play this slot machine for us? We have $30 in it. And so like we just walked around pretending like it was her bachelorette party and we were her group, and we had a good old time. Come be my bachelorette. Let's make it happen, Jamar. We'll make it happen. I'm gonna put you in a sash.
Man.
I got a headband. We're gonna make it happen, bro.
This is great. So what happens if I crash the WGI con in Vegas? And
you stay with me. We're gonna have a good time, man.
The more the merrier is what I say.
Absolutely.
Word.
Yeah.
Understood. All right, cool. Jamar, what do you have for us this week?
Aubrey, go first because I don't have one yet. I'm still thinking.
Sure, yeah. Do you have one, Aubrey? It is hard sometimes to come up with these ones.
I do, and this one may lie more in personal preference, but what are we doing with the tent before retreat? There's got to be a better way to assemble 400 people than in that tiny, 50 by 10 foot tent.
Stinky tent.
I am anti-tent.
No tents.
A lot of people love it. I think I have been in the tent for probably 2 out of the 3 most chaotic years of the tent's existence. One with Motor City Percussion doing their Blue Man Group show and open class in 22. Probably the wildest tent experience anyone has ever seen. And then last year with the air mattress. Now, thankfully, air mattresses are banned from the tent. Thank you, Matrix Indoor. But the tent is just very small, very crowded, very loud. I just think we could just be outside.
You bring up valid points. I think the tent is a little debaucherous. I think that things have gotten out of hand back there lately. Didn't they now you have to have an adult supervisor now in the tent?
Yep.
Yeah.
Did that change things
have
at all?
Staff member.
Aubrey, do you think it changed things at all?
No, I mean, at least for Rhythm X, there's 63 of us, and so one staff member is not going to be able to handle 63 people.
Who was tasked with being Rhythm X's nanny?
It was Zyra, one of our admin staff.
It was Zyra. Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right. That makes sense for it to be Zyra, I guess. Okay.
Yes.
I was curious. I wanted it to be Josh Brickey.
But no, I'm sure he was probably in the stands by that point.
Yeah, no.
I want to know what happens in the tent. I've never experienced the tent from a retreat standpoint. I can only imagine what that looks like because I've never performed in WGI in my life.
The way that I would describe the tent is that there's several hours between when these performers get done their final performance and when they need to convene for the tent. And that's all that you probably need to know about how some of them arrive and their behavior in the tent.
And most of them are over the age of 21. That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, at least in PIW finals, you'll have enough true 21-year-olds, but there's certainly some rule breaking and some loose behavior going on back there, I would say.
Kind of sounds like the Tunnels of Drum Corps finals a little bit.
Yes, it's exactly the
same. Got it. Okay, that tells me everything I need to know.
Tells you everything you need to know.
I'll go ahead and brush Rhythm X's hands clean of any debauchery. We were speed loading the truck before the tent happened.
Rhythm X.
For sure.
Oh, no, we lost you. I think we lost you for a second.
Oh.
Yeah. Rhythm X has no time because they're good. They have no time to be so debaucherous. But Jamar, do you got an idea?
Yes. What are we doing about keeping WGI Winds at Dayton, and what if we brought it to Orlando? I think it'd be very
the Strike
fun.
Man speaks.
Listen, hear me out. You did a whole weekend. We can end on a Saturday, and on Sunday you go to Disney. That's all I'm saying. Think about it. I love
Fun fact: WGI was this close to moving to Orlando permanently pre-COVID, and there was, without revealing information that I know from being on the board, it was one small tiny detail from Disney that stopped it. from Disney's end.
Are you
And
serious?
they also just signed an extension with the city of Dayton through 2037. So it's going to be there for a long time.
All right, someone needs to unfreeze the wall, and we need to figure this out like right now.
You know,
I love Ohio. I do love going to Ohio, like the trek of like driving up there. I do. I just wonder, like, where, like, what fun would it be to see if we change the venues? But I get it. Now we're going to be there until 2037. 2037?
2037.
Get on that advisory board and start getting some ideas out. We changed venues from last year to this year at the advisory board.
Right, because by the time 2037 is coming, I think Fast and the Furious 22 is out. Like, oh my gosh.
That's crazy. In 2037, I'd be almost 40.
Oh,
that's wild. I just aged out.
I don't want to talk about that.
All right. Okay. Let's start with the Gush and Goes here. Austin, what do you got for us?
Oh, goodness. Oh, I didn't even think about this. Joey, you want to go first?
I forget what Gush and Goes are, but I feel like it's just complaining,
anything you want to talk about. No, actually, this is your chance to gush and go on about whatever you want for about a minute pertaining to you or the marching arts.
You can't. Oh, okay. Pertaining to me and the marching arts. That gives me some boundaries. You can't just let me go off.
Or the marching arts was what was said.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, I don't know. I'm having a good time. I'm super excited. It sounds weird. I'm excited that the season's done. There's planning going into next season. What Eva's got planned for our 2025 production is absolutely insane, to the point where we need physical trainers, and we're gonna have like jazz specialists come out and explain how this type of music that we want to play is happening. We've got tons of drum corps people lined up to come in and consult. So Eva's about to grow. We're about to start a winds group. We started a winds group. We're about to start a guard and a percussion group and watch that kind of expand. And summer and fall is happening. So this microphone and this camera has been used a lot to talk about what trees should look like on a fake field. And I'm just vibing out.
And the churn continues. More shows, more ensembles. It's never stopping over there. You keep yourself busy, man.
I got to, or I'm gonna get in trouble.
It's awesome, though. We love hearing about all the things that you stay up to. Let's see, Matt. What do you have for us?
I'll just say, now that we're post WGI, looking forward to 2025. For anybody that's listening, if you've never been to Dayton with either just yourself or your kids, or if you're like on the cusp and you're thinking about like, well, maybe we want to go, but I don't think we're going to do well or whatever, the answer is just go and get that experience, get your kids seeing what the top of the activity actually is, because it will just blow their perspective up, and they'll understand so much more about what this absolutely ridiculous thing that we do when we dress in silly costumes and dance around and play drums and horns and all that stuff. They'll understand what it is just from seeing it live, because there's nothing that replaces getting to see it in person. And so if anybody ever gets the chance, and you haven't gone, just do it. It's an amazing experience. It will change your life, it will change your kids' lives, and it'll change your program.
Yeah, no, literally, I'll stamp that one. It'll change your kids' lives. I went to a high school that took me all 4 years of my high school, and that sent me down an absolute path that made me who I am. So WGI is truly life-changing. I agree. Jamar, what do you got?
Gush and Go. So basically, it's like what's going on with me. I'll just be super honest. I'm super excited for the 2025 season, but I'm going to take my time because I think I'm more excited to see how I can grow in the fall. I've been doing a lot of work and a lot of reading and figuring out different ways to kind of not just teach, but think about how not even think about design. I think how I approach design and how I approach ideas and things. And I'm finding it really fun to to use my mind as a visual playground when I'm creating ideas, and it's becoming more and more fun. And I think one thing that's really important to me right now is the mindfulness of members. And I guess I want to share this. There was a moment that we had one of our saxophone soloists at Stryke Wynds. He was really, really, really scared about playing his solos at finals, and he was getting in his head, and I could tell when he was getting in his head in the morning of finals. And I was talking to him the whole season about it. I'm like, regardless of what happens, it's going to happen. So you're going to have to do whatever you need to do. And then it got to a moment where I told him, and on that last run that morning, where I was just like, you need to look at me as you perform and just look. And imagine I'm a judge. And then what would you want to communicate to that judge as you're playing? And I don't know what it was. And it worked for him in that run. And then when he got in there, I told him again, he looked at me, he said, I got it. And then once we went into that run, that was the most he's hit that solo or solos in all his years. And I think that for me was my biggest Gush and Go. I love that moment. That was my favorite moment for him. And yeah, that's where I'm at. Helping members not just, be better performers, but to have confidence in themselves.
Yeah. No, that's like the most rewarding moment as a instructor. That's kind of what I was feeling as I was going through the moments with my bass line there. It's like a lot of my kids would look towards like me as a role model for having been in bass lines that they like and for having done it in a, like, they just look at it and they're like, wow, we want to do it like he did it. And then as I was watching them, I'm like, wow, they did it better than I did it. Like, especially in terms of like, like for sure, they were a way better UP bass than like I was. So like that's what is truly the best achievement, I think, and the most rewarding thing as an instructor to see.
Absolutely.
Let's see. Aubrie, do you got a Gush and Go for us?
Yeah, sure. So I just aged out, and everyone told me like what all of my feelings were, I think, supposed to be whenever I was aging out. But the main thing that I feel is just super content and happy to be on the other side of it. Happy to get into the teaching side of independent and actually get to like pass the torch and do all of, the things I've been training to do. And I just really love the direction that WGI is taking and like making these more meaningful and impactful shows. And while groups are still, focusing on the cleanliness, I think a lot of groups are focusing more on the emotional quality than they've been focusing on them in the past. And that's something that I always appreciate because, I mean, I could watch, lots all day of snare lines being clean, of marimba lines, hitting their licks and all that jazz. But what makes a show is the performers. And like you guys were saying, like seeing the looks on students' faces and performers' faces as they're actually putting themselves into the program that's what it's all about. And I think a lot of times we get super caught up in like, it has to be clean. It has to have this like XYZ level of excellence when, that's not what all the people who don't know anything about band, who are probably at least 35% of our audience, are coming to see. So I like that our activities moving there.
I think that it is like the shows are getting a lot better. It's cool. Like, I do think that when you watch nowadays, like there's more depth to the programs. There's like, if you really think about the groups right outside of the top 5 too, they're like astoundingly better than they used to be. Like so much closer to competing at that high level. Like I think that United's show that we put out this year would have been extremely competitive like a few years ago. Not to knock it, not to say it's dated. It's just to say that like we're keeping up, like it's like really cool to see the growth of the activity all come together. Gets me excited for 2025. Austin, do you got one now? We'll come back to you before we wrap.
I do. You kind of beat me to it a little bit there, Steven. The quality of production from top to bottom across all circuits of WGI has just been so incredible. Like, if you're like, go, like, special shout out to Guard, go watch some of those Scholastic World groups. Oh my God. Like Avon, ridiculous. Even the Scholastic A groups in the Guard world, ridiculous. I'm like, how are you teaching 16-year-olds to do that? And then like even in percussion, top to bottom, it's just getting better and better and better and better, and it's getting more competitive each year, which is fantastic. And then this year in Winds, from top to bottom, there was quality in every single class. From Scholastic A all the way to Independent World, there was quality across all the classes, and it was just It was just so fun it's so fun to be able to watch this activity grow. I mean, I've only been involved in, this was my 5th year involved in WGI as a whole. Like, I never participated, did anything, or even honestly cared about WGI. I was a drum corps guy through and through, coming up through high school and then through like my early 20s. But being able to like kind of go back and then look at the quality of everything that's going on within WGI from top to bottom across all the circuits, it's really cool. And my hot take is that WGI is the future of the pageantry arts, like as a whole. Straight up.
I agree. I was about to use that. You rap first.
It's absolutely the future. I mean, the model is there. It's just the way it's going to go. It's a more intimate performing environment, and I think people are starting to enjoy WGI. Like, more people are starting to enjoy WGI more and more.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to say the same thing. Like, we're getting into drum corps season. We obviously love drum corps. I don't mean this as a detriment to it, but a lot of our conversations on a Water Break in the last year have been about the sustainability of drum corps and whether or not it's something that's even possible for a longer time frame. And it's like, WGI works. It's growing. It's possible. It's practical. It's like regional until you get to the national performance at the end.
Absolutely.
Like WGI doesn't deal with the same weather issues related to warming. Yeah, I think that WGI really is probably the future of the activity. So that's really what I would want to gush and go on about, man. I just get excited about not just 2025, but like, I intend to teach for a while. I intend to see, what we all can do, not just myself over a couple years with my baseline, but what the whole activity can push itself to be. So thank you all for...
It's called Gush and Go, not Gush and Stay. Let's go.
Clearly, Jeremy was on the exact same page as me there. Thank you all for a great rehearsal this week. Thank you to our hosts, Austin, Joey, Matt. Matt, where could people find you?
They can find me either my group's socials. It's hype, HIPE .indoor, or rep my home circuit too, KIDA.indoor. Either one, find me there.
Very nice. Go check them out. Jamar, where could we find you or Stryke?
We can find Stryke at pretty much on Instagram for Stryke Wynds or Stryke PAC, or you can find me on Facebook. My name Jamar Morrison, or that's Jamar. No one say Jamal. Sorry, it's from my life story. I don't know how I say Jamar, and somehow it's spelled Jamal still. It's insane to me. Anyway, but you can find me there, and then on my Instagram, it's my name backwards, so ramaj.jkm because of my business, JKM.
All right. Mm-hmm. Go check him out. Give him a follow, and we'd also love to have you on the pod more often. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And then Aubrie, where should people go follow you?
Yeah, so I have Instagram, and it's just aubrie.lynn.music.
Oh, we got you. Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my Instagram
Perfect.
is just at aubrie.lynn.music.
We did get your plug to your
okay,
Instagram.
Good.
Awesome. Yeah, I think we had a little bit of lag there, but go check Aubrie out. Go give her a follow, and also go check out RhythmX at RhythmX, as well as any other of their subsection accounts on Instagram. One more thing, don't forget that we have our YouTube channel now. It's got many of our interviews coming out as well in full video editions for those interviews. So go subscribe. You do not want to miss those. Before you close out of your podcast listening app, please subscribe and write a review. Share it with a friend. We read every single review. There are not enough of them. We need more. So go leave some. Follow us on social media at On a Water Break, and we will see you at the next rehearsal on a Water Break.